What is up, leapers and fellow travelers? It's Sam from Fate's Wide Wheel here, and I am here to basically record something because I had to. I had recorded an episode earlier in the day, and unbeknownst to me, they were dropping the season 2 trailer later in the afternoon, which I am sure you've all seen now. I shared it on Twitter, direct from the Entertainment Weekly, a story that dropped with the trailer premiere embedded in it. And it's great. It gives me the opportunity to talk about some things that I could only hint at earlier because now it's out there. It's out there and we've seen it. And I love so much about the trailer. And I just wanted to give a general overview of it, talk about a couple of specific things. Won't necessarily go too deep. This isn't going to be like me dissecting the trailer and be like, what happens here? Sort of level of stuff. Just sort of initial impressions and then talking about a couple of things that I did kind of know about beforehand, but couldn't talk about due to some of the embargoes. But now that NBC put it out there themselves, yay, we can talk about it. First off, I love the way that the trailer leans into the story of the time traveler leaping through time, setting right what once went wrong. We hear all of that from Ben's own mouth, which is super cool. And we hear all of it from his mouth because he's telling it to Hannah, played by Eliza Taylor, one of the new characters for the season. And I can say that because they show her. They show her in the trailer. That's who that is. So Hannah is someone that Ben confides his secret to along the way. There's some other stuff that I know about Hannah that I can't share yet, but you're going to get to see it. And I can't wait until we can all start talking about it because I think that she's a very interesting character. We get to see all of these different years and time periods and places. We get to go to places where the original could never go. And I want to address something right off the bat because I've seen it brought up a couple of times. There are some people that aren't really happy with the idea that they are going further back in time. You know, that we're seeing the Salem witch trials, for instance, that he's going to be spending time in the 60s, that he's going to spend time in the 40s, that, you know, that a lot of this season takes place based off of the information we have prior to Ben's own lifetime. Let's get a couple of things out of the way right up front. One, the original conceit of the show was not out of any sort of scientific rationale whatsoever. It was two chief reasons: budget, and because Don Belisario thought the show would appeal to a specific audience, and in order to appeal to said specific audience, he wanted to set it basically within his own lifetime. You know, within the events that he had seen, that he had experienced, that he wanted baby boomers to be able to be attracted to the show because they were going to see the events through this lens. And that was the reason. You know, those two things are the only impetus for Sam leaping within his own lifetime. Budget, because they didn't know if they'd be able to afford to really produce a show on a weekly basis that could go any when, anywhere. And two, because marketing appeal, basically, what it comes right down to. That was the audience that, you know, Don Belisario thought that the show could appeal to. In fact, and I am happy to be corrected here, I'm pretty sure that Deborah Pratt has basically said before that that was not part of her original idea, that the idea of him leaping in his own lifetime, that was something that Don came up with later. And again, the chief reason for it was because budget and because he thought it would appeal to a certain core demographic. So when you think about that being, you know, the whole reason why Sam couldn't leap outside of his own lifetime, even though, of course, he would later on in season 5 leap outside of his own lifetime. I think it's great that the shackles are off, frankly. You know, we've already seen in the previous season multiple leaps into times prior to Ben's own lifetime. Some of those episodes were amongst, you know, my favorite. I mean, somebody up there likes Ben being one of the first where it's just sort of like, look at this, you know, he's outside of his own lifetime. And that trend would continue. You know, we'd see like the 30s, we'd see other time periods, the Old West. So I don't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem with it then, and I certainly don't have a problem with it now. I think that it's already easily been explained away that, you know, due to the way that Ben, you know, kind of rewrote some of the programming for quantum leaping in general, and the way that, of course, future Ian then also assisted in, you know, figuring out the way to pinpoint specific time periods, including the future. You know, there's already a rationale for it. And I think it's great. Why not go there? And why not explore all of this stuff that we have to explore? Tell these wonderful stories that can take place anytime and anywhere. I just think that that's fantastic. And creates a much richer show, quite frankly, for it. I don't think that the restrictions on it being in Ben's own lifetime serve any real purpose other than, again, the original impetus for it being that it was done out of budgetary concerns and basically marketing to target a certain audience. And I think that those two ideas were fairly linked. So I don't necessarily want to, say that they were like exclusive in any way. So I loved the fact that we got to see all these different time periods. We're going to Egypt. We're going to see pyramids. It's amazing. I love that, that we're getting that. I think it looks incredible. And I cannot wait to see more and to learn more, especially about the production of some of these episodes, that episode in particular. I was going to say something, and I'm not sure if I can say it, and I'm really sorry. That sounds kind of crappy, but I almost let it slip. And me, editing is not my friend all the time, so I'm just going to leave it there. But it is something about that episode, and again, I just think that's going to be a fantastic episode, and I cannot wait for people to see it. I have not seen it yet, so I'm just going off of some gut feelings, basically. The future. Let's talk about the future. So 2050 was shown, which of course was the time that Ben leapt into when they met future Ian. And there were some rumblings, of course, that, that these were the same scenes that we had already seen. But I don't think that's true. I don't think it's the same exact footage from Judgment Day. I think it's very similar, but I think that that what I'm seeing here is it looks as though we might actually be going, we might be going back to the future. Oh yeah, I said that. I could be wrong. I don't know. Again, it's so much of this is still a complete mystery to me, as it should be. And I can't wait to see if we do get a chance to go back to the future. I think it could have some really, really interesting implications for the show. We hear Jen with a line about the butterfly effect, which makes me wonder, is some of the stuff that Ben runs into in the past, and in particular with the character of Hannah, knowing that she is going to be recurring, will that have an impact on some sort of like overarching storyline? Will we get to like a satisfying conclusion of that storyline by episode 8? I don't think so. I think that if we are left with only 8 episodes in season 2, I think we're definitely going to be left with a lot of unanswered questions for season 3. Fingers crossed to wrap up. But it looks great. I think that everything that I already felt after having seen the first 3 episodes is only amplified by now having seen this trailer. A lot of the footage from the trailer, I will absolutely say, is not from those first 3 episodes. There's a chunk of it that is from one of the episodes, but I don't know that I saw 2 of the episodes represented. So everything else is actually from like 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which is really cool that they were putting that much out there from beyond what like reviewers and folks like myself have already seen. It's just a great trailer. It's got me hyped. It seems like it's got a lot of people hyped that I've seen out there on the internet. I'm so excited for the series to begin airing and to start, just having these conversations specifically about the episodes going forward. I think that there's going to be a lot of great stuff to talk about. And, the one of the things that was mentioned in the Entertainment Weekly article is they did pinpoint, which I was already aware of because of seeing the episode, but they did pinpoint the time and location for the premiere episode, which is 1979 in Russia. Ben is a part of a military team, and that's about all I can say. I think there might have been a couple of other things in that article, but I don't want to take any chances. So yeah, it's a great episode. It's going to be really cool. And I cannot wait to see what people think of the episode. I just think it's a wonderful reintroduction. It reminds me in many ways, not having to do with the plot or anything else, but it reminds me in many ways of how we've talked on this show before about Honeymoon Express, about how the first season of Quantum Leap has some great episodes, no doubt about it. I mean, obviously you've got Color of Truth in there, one of the best episodes of the series. And season 1 of the revival, great episodes, no doubt about it. But this feels like a wonderful reintroduction to the series. It's a perfect place for people who haven't even seen the first season to come in and watch the show. Yeah, they're going to have questions. Yes, there are things that they're not necessarily going to know or connect the dots on. But that said, it holds its own so well as a singular episode. And so I think that on October 4th, my hope is there's going to be a lot of people sitting down to watch this episode that have not seen Quantum Leap yet. The good news is, of course, if you haven't yet seen Quantum Leap, there are a couple of ways to watch season one and the classic series, even if you want to try to binge all of that as well. You can head over to Peacock and you can stream those episodes. You can pick up the Blu-rays. Mill Creek did the complete series for the classic series, and then, of course, there's the official release on Blu-ray and DVD of the Revival series season one, which I did a review of a few weeks back. It's longer than that now, isn't it? Time just keeps moving along. And those are both excellent ways to watch the new series and get caught up in time for the premiere on October 4th. You'd have to roughly watch, like, not 2 episodes every night, but more than 1 episode a night in order to get there and meet up in time for the new season to start. But I am just so excited for season 2. I think season 2 is already, just based off of what I've seen, a cut above, stronger in a lot of ways, which is saying a lot because we had a lot of really great episodes in season 1, and I think season 2 is looking like it's on a great trajectory. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone else thinks. I'm loving all the comments and reactions that I'm seeing to the trailer. Again, the overall vibe is that people are very positive about it. I've seen a couple of nitpicks, obviously, about the leaping outside of Ben's own lifetime stuff, and a couple of things about leaping to the future and the way that the trailer was cut together. Wanting to know, like, when and where we were in certain points. And I think that confusion is okay, because it's just a trailer, right? It's just supposed to get us interested and hyped and hooked. And I think it succeeds on that level without a doubt. And the footage from season 1 that's used, why wouldn't you use that, especially considering some of the stuff that they used, which is great. And it's going to lead us into an amazing and incredible and wonderful and awesome season 2. I just know it. And I can't wait to talk more about the premiere episode in a couple of weeks. As I mentioned multiple times in what you're about to see, the rest of the episode, I will, of course, have that episode up immediately following the airing of the season premiere of Quantum Leap on October the 4th. So that will be 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central for the Fates Wide Wheel episode drop immediately after the 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central airing of Quantum Leap. That's all I've got for this part. There's about 35-ish more minutes to come after this, but I needed to at least give a bit of a trailer reaction because it happened, and it happened after I had already recorded an episode, and I felt like I'd be missing out if I didn't throw this on there, considering that it's going to be dropping the same day that trailer dropped as well. It looks great. Addison's smile that we see in the trailer. Ben's a spy. How cool is that? Just a lot of great stuff. He gets to punch a Nazi, awesome. That'll never be wrong or old. So a lot of really cool stuff coming. The LA riots in 92. I was given a bit of a heads up on that episode, and I think I think that's going to be a fantastic episode as well. So looking forward to that one. Looking forward to the Egypt episode. And that's all I can say. The episode, I think I can get away with saying this. Here we go. The episode where Ben is talking to Hannah in the beginning of the trailer is not either one of those episodes. I'll say that much. It's also not one of the first 3 episodes. I think I'm going to be able to get away with that one. We'll see if NBC still grants me access. Anyway, it's going to be great, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone else thinks. So please leave your comments, send me that email, find me, DM me. You got the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, the X, whatever. Yeah. If X ends up being a subscription-based service, which I guess is the thing that they are hinting at, you won't find me there anymore, because the last thing I want to do is pay money for something like that. And I certainly wouldn't want to pay any of the lovely patrons dollars towards something like that. I'll instead invest it in server space and other tools to help create these videos and podcasts, as opposed to giving it to Elon and any of those fellas or folks or whatever. So thank you all so very much. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the rest of the episode coming at you right about now. Hello, leapers and fellow travelers. Welcome to Fate's Wide Wheel. I am your host, Sam, and this week I will be previewing Season 2 of Quantum Leap. I have seen the first 3 episodes, but I can't say much. I'll just put that right up front. I'm not going to try and string you along and get you to the end of the video and talk about a bunch of other things. There's not a lot I can say. This time around, when we received the screeners, and I say we as in everyone out there that reviews the episodes or has access to the media village, when we received our screeners this time around, the email was very specific, even beyond the normally worded spoiler embargo until air date, about specific elements of the episodes, some of which I was already aware of ahead of time. So luckily they didn't spoil things for me. Unfortunately, I know that there are definitely some folks out there that were spoiled right up front because NBC decided to just put it all out there. And not only did they do it in the email, which contained the link, but also they did it at the beginning of each episode. So if you're watching the episode, there's usually like a little screen that airs with some text on it. And it says, all spoilers embargoed until air date. Thank you for respecting this, blah, blah, blah. And this time, again, they listed very specific spoiler items, which, could not be revealed. I guess just going one step further to ensure that nothing would leak out ahead of the premiere of season 2. And I completely understand that because there is some big stuff coming. The scope of it is larger than I think a lot of viewers might even be expecting or anticipating. We get answers to some questions that were left dangling at the very end of season 1, which I know a lot of people will be very satisfied with, and we get that stuff pretty much right off the bat. I'm trying to think what exactly I can say or how exactly I can say it. I'll start with this. They're very good. All 3 episodes are fantastic. I thought that the first episode in particular really played to the strengths of the production team and the actors. There's some wonderful acting, some wonderful dialogue. The plot, I thought, was fantastic. There's just some excellent cinematography. It feels big. It feels kind of beyond some of the episodes we got in season 1. And that's not a knock on season 1. As any listener to the show knows, there were a lot of episodes that I loved dearly in season 1. But there's something about the first episode that just feels like a step above, a cut above, which is great. It's a great way to not only, I think, reward viewers coming back after the break for the summer, but also bring in new viewers, in particular at this time of the strike when there won't be a lot of new television programs airing. So it's a perfect opportunity to jump in if you haven't been following the show already. There is, of course, a little Saga Cell preview at the very beginning, which gets you up to speed with the events of season 1. I don't even want to say too much about that because I think that there's a couple of things about that that are nice surprises, perhaps. Episode 1 gives us just a lot of great stuff. Some nods to not only season 1 but to the classic series. So pay attention. You're going to get rewarded, I think, if you're a fan of the classic series. And it really stands on its own as a fantastic episode of television, a fantastic episode of Quantum Leap, and a wonderful way to come back to the series. Episode 2, again, very similar, honestly. It just feels like a good episode of television. There's some really wonderful character drama. The emotional stakes are pretty high, especially for some of our regulars. And again, some wonderful interactions between characters and guest stars. I can't even talk about who the guest stars are because that's something else that was indeed embargoed. So I can't even mention names, but there's some really wonderful stuff there. We do get just a nice mix of things in episode 2. I'll leave it at that. I have to be very careful what I say here. And then episode 3. Episode 3 might have been my favorite of the bunch. It's hard. If I was pressed back against the wall to rank them, I might go 3, 1, 2. But I could easily do 1, 3, 2 as well. And that's not because 2 is bad by any stretch. I just think that 1 and 3, again, kind of represent that cut above. 2, as far as I'm concerned, stands among a lot of the most solid episodes of season 1. It to me, it did not necessarily represent the the leap forward, if you will, that 1 and 3 kind of did to me. I felt like 1 and 3 really did some interesting, unique things, and just changed the way that maybe I approach the show as a viewer, and not because of anything revelatory in the storyline, but honestly, in some ways, just because of the production values, just because the way that the episodes are constructed, the show does feel a little different, and I think that's a good thing. It's no secret. We've discussed it on the podcast before. Obviously, season 1, when it started out, you had different showrunners. The first few episodes were planned to be, already kind of, they were planned to be something not other than what they were, but we know that episode 1 of season 1 was not the original pilot episode, for instance. We know that was moved to What a Disaster, episode 6, and then episode 2 largely was as is, but again, that was kind of a different creative team at the helm. And I liked 2. I had no problems with 2. Obviously, episode 3 was really kind of the first episode where the new creative team got to start to put their stamp on the show. Drew Lindo, who's been on the show before, he was the writer of that episode, and it was my first favorite episode, basically, of the season. That episode to me represented so much of what Quantum Leap is and can be, and what this new iteration can do as well. So that said, knowing that there was this other creative team kind of at the helm originally, the first season was really about learning who these characters are, what the writing team could do, the type of stories they wanted to tell, while also resolving some of the things that had been set up for them prior to the departure of that original creative team. And when I say creative team, I mean, obviously there's still involvement from a lot of people that were there initially, and Brian Winbrett and Steve Lillian are still listed as executive producers, even in the new season. So it's not like a complete total shift. However, with Martin Garrow and Dean Georgeris and some of the other writers and producers that got brought in, they didn't necessarily get the chance to really put their stamp on the show until this season. And I think that shows, and it shows in a very good way. And that's not anything, to be critical of what was done before, because I still really liked season 1. I enjoyed the aspect of the mystery box. I enjoyed having, this overarching storyline, which is something that we never got with the classic series. So it's not a knock. It's just that it's this wonderful kind of freshening up of a show that didn't necessarily need to be freshened up, and yet it pays off a great deal that it has been kind of refreshed in a way. And I just think that there's a lot of really great stuff coming, with what little I know about 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm just very excited. And some of what I know about 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is literally to be excited, because there's good stuff on the way. I've been told that by people that I trust. So I'm just really looking forward to the season as a whole. And I think that these first 3 episodes are going to reward viewers of season 1, reward viewers of the classic series as well. Because again, there are a couple of little nods in there that people will catch and really enjoy and savor, I think. And overall, I could not help but be, how do I say this? Because if I say it the wrong way, I feel like I might be giving away too much. Impressed, I guess. I'll leave it with that. Impressed with Raymond Lee and Caitlin Bassett and Mason Alexander Park in particular over the course of these first 3 episodes. I think they all 3 get some really cool stuff to do. And Henry Hudson, obviously, and Narissa Lee as well. But I think that Raymond really, really, really gets some great stuff to do with Ben. And I think that Caitlin is finding all new levels with Addison. So really a lot to appreciate in the performances. And then the writing, I think that the writing for 1 and 3 in particular, and nothing against 2 has some beautiful moments in it, but 1 and 3 in particular, the writing is just really great. And I think the other thing that's on display in these first 3 episodes is the I'm going to do it again, I'm so sorry, leaping between genres, and how well the show accommodates that, and how well the actors adapt to it. And it's really cool. It still feels like Quantum Leap. It feels like this iteration of Quantum Leap, yet they are definitely kind of switching things up as far as the types of stories that they can tell from week to week without and I'm going to use this word, but I don't mean it hypercritically, without being burdened by an overarching storyline that they have to kind of pay attention to. And obviously there were episodes, last season that were not beholden to that either, that certainly took a step, away from that overarching plot to kind of tell its own story. But in these first 3 episodes, because there isn't that mystery kind of laid out from the very beginning, in the same way that there was in the beginning of season 1, it pays off. It pays off a great deal. I hope I didn't say too much. I might have said too much. I don't think I did. Anyway, they're great. I really look forward to seeing what the dialogue is, with, listeners to the show, what the other, podcasts and reviewers think, because again, I think episode 1 is just a great way to start off the season, great way to bring in new viewers, great way to reward viewers of season 1 and the classic series. So, October 4th, it's fast approaching. We're a little over 2 weeks away, and I'm just very, very, very excited. It's wild to think that we got 3 episodes dropped at once this early. Last year it was dropped like just a week ahead, if even that. I don't think it was a full week. I think it was like 4 or 5 days ahead. And usually screeners would come just a few days before air date. So to have the opportunity to, see the episodes this early, get the chance to, view them again, put together maybe some more thoughtful commentary on them, and deliver those episodes to you right after the episode airs, just like Fate's Wide Wheel had been doing before, is going to be a lot of fun. And, if the strikes resolve in time, which the outlook does not look great, let's be honest, I will certainly endeavor to bring some guests in, get some folks in to talk about the episodes. But as it stands, I'm certainly going to be chatting with some potential guest hosts, some people that you've seen before on the show, some people that you haven't seen before on the show. Maybe if you are a patron and you've come to some of our hangouts and watch parties for the episodes, there will be some familiar faces and voices from those particular events chiming in as well, and other listeners that have reached out to offer support, which I am incredibly grateful for. Everybody's been so cool and supportive of not only Fate's Wide Wheel and myself going forward, but Dennis as well, which is great. And that's exactly what we would want. So we really appreciate all of that. Let's move on to a few other things. But again, I don't want to give short shrift. I just want to say there's not a lot I can say. So that's why, you're getting like 10 minutes of thoughts on 3 episodes. Because, yeah, spoilers are a big no-no anyway. I wouldn't want to do that for any of the listeners or the viewers out there. And hopefully I've not said too much or anything that would give anything away. I don't think I have. I don't think I said anything remotely in that direction or vein. So we'll move on to talk just briefly about the strikes, actually, because that is certainly something that will have an impact and an effect on whether or not we get more episodes of season 1. It will also have an impact and an effect on whether or not we are able to have guests on the show. Now, I want to say before I get into too much of that, I want more than anything for an equitable, fair resolution to these strikes for the people that are participating in, the writers and the actors, who, I adore. And I'm so lucky to have made contact with them, have them on the show, conduct the interviews that Fate's Wide Wheel has done. And I certainly think that is more important than getting anybody on this show to talk about Quantum Leap. That said, I certainly get the feeling that, people do want to talk about the show. They want to be able to celebrate this thing that they've worked so hard on, and they want to communicate with the fandom, and they want to be able to take part in these conversations. So I don't feel too awful talking about it in that light, because it's something that I do think that we all want, myself, listeners, and of course the people involved with actually creating the show. So with that said, the strikes, unfortunately we're kind of in the same place that we were, as far as a layperson like myself can say, the last time that we talked about this a few weeks ago. There's not a whole lot of new information. There's still kind of more of the same. The tensions are still kind of there. Unfortunately, you're still having CEOs and studio heads say things that just feel dumb, quite frankly, and kind of mean-spirited in some ways. Very insensitive and unempathetic, which is unfortunate. Trying to paint things in a certain light in order to make themselves and their companies look better. Fortunately, I don't think that most people are falling for it. I think that most people are kind of like, hey, you made $30 million last year. I'm not going to cry over this, especially considering that the vast majority of the people that are striking right now make, less than $100,000 a year, less than $80,000, less than $60,000 a year. Luckily, I think we're in a good place as far as that public perception is concerned. In fact, they were looking to hire damage control, and of course, I know social media had a bit of a field day with that, including a lot of the brilliant writers out there who are unable to do the work that they so love right now in order to make sure that they are protected going forward. So I don't think that we're going to see a resolution, next week, the week after, 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now. I do think that it's going to be ongoing. My genuine hope is, and it's unrealistic and idealistic, and I know that, is that something can happen by November. I know that if things get moving again in November, that season 2 can get started back up. People can get back to work just like they want to. I know they want to get back to work, and I love them for that. I love the fact that I know during season 1, there were a lot of people that tried to kind of take to task the people working on this show for a variety of reasons, because it didn't feel enough like the original series, because, they thought this didn't make sense, or did they ever think about this, or, that. And what that really just does a disservice to is the amount of passion amongst the team that's creating and working on this show. And I just love the fact that they want to get back to work. They want to create this show. They want to put it out there. They believe in the show. They believe in what the show can do, in a very simple manner. And whether that ends up just being entertainment or really affecting people and giving people something to think about, and moving people in wonderful ways that a lot of television shows just don't necessarily have that same empathy engine to do. I just think it's fantastic that they want to get back to work. And I hope that they can, because I know that if they do in November, that, the rest of season 2 will be a piece of cake, right? I think, I'm guessing on this. This is pure speculation, and I don't know for certain about this. I'm guessing that the strike could probably go as far as into December, maybe even early January, and still things would kind of get on track to maybe produce a few more episodes. There'd be a bit of a hiatus, I would imagine, but they could maybe get some stuff out there before they'd have to break again. I don't know that, though, for sure. That's just a wild guess on my part. I know that they were working on finishing season 1 into, I believe it was like February of this year. So maybe they could do 2 or 3 more episodes of a second season. And maybe they wouldn't even do that. Maybe it would just be like, this is our second season, now let's move on to getting pre-production on season 3. I know some of that stuff happens simultaneously as well. I've heard that there were times when, they were working on season 1 stuff while other folks were working on season 2 stuff. It lasts like January, February, March. People were doing both things, basically. So it's a lot to balance, and it's a lot to kind of even try to speculate on, because I don't know the full ins and outs of how production schedules work, and how they might be able to shoot episodes, write episodes, etc. How much time they need to do that. Again, I had kind of always heard that November would be kind of the sweet spot for them to be able to just sort of almost seamlessly finish out the rest of season 2. Of course, once the holidays hit, it gets really hard to kind of figure out exactly what's going to happen, especially with the resolutions of the strikes. If it goes, past the new year and past that, then again, we're probably just going to get the 8 episodes that have already been filmed. One cool little tidbit that I did find out, actually, is that the 8 episodes were completed, like 100% completed. I believe... I want to say it was about maybe 6 weeks ago or so, because the thing is that obviously the writers and the actors couldn't work on these. However, you did have like VFX and post production stuff that could be done, after the fact, of course, even amidst the strikes. Now, I don't know specifically what was done, when and how and all that sort of stuff, but I do know that all 8 episodes were completed. About yeah, about 4 or 6 weeks ago, something like that, I want to say. So again, I hope that we get more of season 2. I hope that they finish that initial 13 episode order. I hope that they get the extra episodes added on like they did in the first season, so we can get an even bigger season 2. But I do firmly believe, and I could be proven completely wrong on this down the road, and I sure as hell hope I'm not, that we are going to get more Quantum Leap one way or the other. Whether it's more of season 2 or a season 3, I really believe that's going to happen. I think that the show has performed well enough for NBC. I think NBC has a lot of faith in it. I think that the type of show that it is, and I think that the people involved in the show and what people are noticing about the show is enough to ensure that we get more Quantum Leap. I really believe that that's going to be the case. And I certainly hope it is. I want there to be more of season 2 than 8 episodes, but if there's not, I at least hope that we get a third season. Let's talk a little bit about Fate's Wide Wheel. So, it's been a little difficult recently to consistently get episodes out. And part of that has just been the busyness of life in general. And for that, I apologize, because I would much rather be delivering episodes every week as opposed to every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks or whatnot. I knew once season 1 finished that there would be a little bit of downtime here and there. And obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's happened for me personally between my father's passing and then just kind of wrapping my head around clearing out his storage unit and going through all of his stuff and, doing that sort of stuff. And then, of course, the changes here at Fate's Wide Wheel, as everyone is well aware of, they all of that stuff coupled with, my daughter starting kindergarten and, of course, the other endeavors that I'm involved in, it's made it a little bit more difficult than usual to really get set up. And the other thing is there hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. I know that I have promised and will deliver at some point an episode on the Twilight Zone, an episode on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and hopefully a chat about the first season of Red Dwarf with Matt Dale. Those are 3 things that are definitely in the pipeline. Whether those happen before Quantum Leap starts up, I don't know. But that is something that will happen somewhere in the next whenevers we have time. Now, once Quantum Leap starts airing, there will indeed be an episode every week, just like there was last season. It will drop immediately following the airing of the episode. So, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, there will be a brand new episode of Fate's Wide Wheel dropping in correlation with the episode of Quantum Leap that just aired. And I'm hoping to actually get some of that stuff done well in advance, so there'll be no question as to when it will actually drop. And I'm looking forward to doing that, because again, there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about just in those first 3 episodes alone, and I'm excited about the rest of the season as well, because from the few previews that we've seen, some of the rumblings that I've heard and been able to pick up from my sources, there's just some really, really cool stuff along the way. I mean, pyramids, come on, and it's going to be a great season. I really believe that. I think that there's a lot of great stuff in store for us. So, yes, Fate's Wide Wheel obviously is not going anywhere. I'm sure that anyone listening right now knows that, but I just want to reassure you that there's just been a lot going on right now, and that's the reason why Fate's Wide Wheel has not been released more consistently compared to what it was in the lead up to season 1, and then of course during season 1 as well. What's happening in my world? Well, dear listeners and viewers of Fate's Wide Wheel, life has been really rough this past year, and I think most people know that. There's been a lot of changes for me. There's been a big move, getting into the new house, working a lot on getting the house prepared for us to move in. My daughter finishing up preschool, the passing of my father, me, coming out in certain circles. In fact, there are people here that listen and watch this podcast that know this, that don't, that aren't aware, or that are aware of things that there are other people in my life that aren't aware of. But, me coming out as non-binary and, kind of just wrestling with everything that's associated with gender identity and what that means for me personally. there's been a lot of really difficult stuff, but there's been a lot of amazing stuff as well, and stuff that I'm so grateful for. And being able to do this is certainly one of them. And having the people that listen and comment and have been so supportive has been very special to me. And so I'm grateful for that. So a couple of the really cool things that have happened. My daughter started kindergarten, which has been amazing to see her going to school. It's all day, full day, Monday through Friday kindergarten. So that first week was difficult, right? Dropping her off at school, seeing her walk in, and she's a small one, she's even kind of small for her age, and just watching her walk in and not even really wave goodbye. Those first couple of days she did, but now it's literally just sort of like, smell you later, and out of the car. But I love being able to drop her off, and I love being able to pick her up. She wants to ride the bus, and we're going to get there. But for right now, I'm just cherishing the fact that I get to drive her to school and drop her off and pick her up. And it means a lot to me. And seeing the ways that she's already growing, and the ways that she's asking questions in a completely different fashion than she did before is amazing to me. And I am loving every second of that. Seeing the things that she brings home, both like the physical things, the art projects, the homework, etc. Because yes, even in kindergarten, they have homework. Who knew? It's like 2 questions. It's easy stuff, but it's been wonderful to see that, and to see what she's doing, and of course, these days, it's a far cry from when I was in kindergarten. We get pictures and, little updates sent to us throughout the day. Not every day, but most days, we'll get these little updates about what they're doing, and, pictures of some of the activities that she's participating in, which is kind of wild to me, because it's just, I know that that's not something that's totally new, but certainly for someone who's not been in a school for over 20 years, it is new. And it raises a lot of questions about technology, etc. But for me as a parent, it's definitely a comfort to be able to see some of that stuff. The way she processes the things that she's learned, and not even like the actual like lessons and the information that they're being given and taught, but even processing the way that information is delivered, and the way that they're learning about just what it is to go to school has been incredible to see. And I now have a child who will come home and go up to her room and get in there and get all of her stuffed animals and her dolls out and put them on the bed and start like teaching, and playing school, basically, which is something that I think a lot of us did. I know I did when I was younger. So it's been incredible to see. It's given me the opportunity, afforded me the opportunity to spend more one-on-one time with my son. He'll be 2 in about a month. And prior to this, for the most part, being a stay-at-home parent, I was, with both of them, which was great, so rewarding. But now getting to have this extra time just one-on-one with him has been incredible. And seeing the way that he's grown, and seeing the way that he plays, and the questions he has, and how special something like lunch is, preparing lunch, bringing him into the kitchen with me, and having him kind of, he's got like this little sort of like step stool almost, and it's specially made for like toddlers, so that they can kind of crawl up into it, but then they can't really fall out of it. And it was actually his sister's, but he'll crawl up into it, and he'll stand there at the counter while I make lunch, and he'll ask questions, and sometimes he'll color. And it's just wonderful to be able to have more of that time where I can focus purely on him. And it's been very valuable, for me as a parent, and hopefully for him too. We'll see. So that's been wonderful. The other thing is, as listeners will know, I had last year in 2022, I'd finally gotten back on stage. It had been a while. I actually made my living as a professional actor for a number of years. And then things kind of slowed down a little bit, and I, decided to explore some other stuff. That other stuff was not necessarily making me happy or stimulating me. And so I was plotting my escape from it. And at the time I was doing that, all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and it really didn't matter what I did, because nothing was happening. There was no theater, So And then flash forward a few months, I got laid off due to the pandemic, and it ended up being a bit of a blessing in disguise because it gave me that opportunity to spend that time with my children, obviously, and explore a lot of other stuff and do a lot of other stuff, and then come out the other side and realize like, no, this is what I should be doing. And so, participated in the first show back for professional theater here in Chicago, which was great because there was this element I had in my mind. It's like, wow, it's been like 5 years since I did this. But then I realized it's been like 2 years since anyone has done this. So we all feel that way. And because I actually made the comment, and as I made the comment, one of the other people was like, oh yeah, it's been like 2.5 years for me. Oh yeah, it's been 2 years for me. And it's like, right, because of the pandemic, nobody's been doing anything. So it was kind of it was a unique opportunity for me to be able to get back on stage with a group of people that, had not been able to do it either. And I really enjoyed that. I also knew that balancing everything that was going on in our lives at the time, it was going to be very difficult for me to continue that with any sort of consistent pace. And with the move and everything else that was happening, I wanted to audition for stuff, and I was auditioning for a few things here and there, doing some self tapes. But in a way, it was almost good that I didn't get a couple of those jobs because it gave me time to focus on other things that were important. But I did end up getting another gig last fall. And so to be able to have 2 shows in 1 year, it was like, okay, great. I can still do this. That's nice. And then this year, after we moved, I was like, I got to get back out there again. And luckily, things have been happening and it's been really great. And I was in a show back in June, and then kind of followed that up with being invited to take part in a reading for a play at Chicago Dramatist, which I was very excited about because I love working on new plays. It's funny. for the longest time, through undergrad, the question would often get asked, what are your dream roles? What are your dream roles? Like everybody would always have these questions. And, I would kind of give pat answers, especially for someone who at the time, identified as male and had been grown up in kind of this like macho male household in a lot of ways. And so I would say things like, Stanley in Streetcar, or, Proctor in The Crucible, or Hamlet, or whatever. And somewhere around, the end of undergrad, I started to realize I was like, no, I want to do something that hasn't been written yet. So when asked that question once in an interview, actually, somebody was interviewing me, believe it or not. And, they asked, it was like, what are your dream roles? And I said, one that hasn't been written yet. And I still stand by that. And so the opportunity to take place in this reading, was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. And it's a very unique play. And I hope it's one that gets produced. And when it does, I hope it's something I can talk about. I don't think I'll be involved with it necessarily, but, that's just the way that readings often work and stuff. Sometimes you do, but not always. But if it gets produced, I will definitely let people know about it because I thought it was really unique and really wonderful. And then as a result of that, I was invited to take part in another reading. This time it was a staged reading, which for those that might not be aware, like a reading of a play, I mean, you can literally just be like sitting around a table reading this out loud for no audience or whatever, right? Maybe a couple of producers and the writer and, that sort of thing. Or in this case, you do have like a small audience, but it's mostly like, friends of the writer or people who are members of Chicago Dramatists, that sort of stuff. But the next one, the staged reading, is you're actually up on your feet and you carry the script in your hand, but you are doing some like rudimentary blocking to kind of help tell the story in that way, as well as, through the words that are on the page. And stage readings are a lot of fun because it's, you often get very limited rehearsal time. And in this case, we had very limited rehearsal time. We were actually doing kind of our first sort of walkthrough, if you will, prior to the performance, if you want to call it that, the actual staged reading. And again, it was a lot of fun, and I love being able to take part in those types of things because I think that you learn so much, and you also get to help the writer and potential producers learn about the piece as well, maybe things that they didn't know before when they just read it on the page. So it's always a lot of fun. It's always great. And as a result of that, there are more opportunities that are on the table, and I'll discuss those at a later date. But I'm very excited to be able to be doing some work again, regardless of the nature of it. It's just nice to be able to know that chapter is not closed. And I knew that it wasn't, but for a while I tried to convince myself it was, because I think it was easier for me to step away thinking that was the case. And now that things are kind of moving again, it's great. It's great to have that opportunity back in front of me. So, It's been an incredibly rough year, but it's also been a really, really great year in a lot of ways. And I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my sobriety. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to, do something that I love so much, which is being able to act and work on stuff with great people and collaborate as an artist and a creator. And that's just something that, will always be, I think, next to my family, my favorite thing in the world, the thing that I love more than anything. But don't worry, you come right after all of that. And I mean that. This being able to do this and connect with people in this way and talk about something that I love and connect with the people that, not just the people that make the show, but also the people that are making the cool stuff like this. Artist JJ Lindell, of course. I've got the 2 Quantum Leap posters there behind me, one for MIA and the other one for O Ye of Little Faith. Unfortunately, I don't have them up right now, and I'm trying to see if I have them close by. I do. Oh, well, not close enough. My office is kind of a mess right now. I don't really like to call it my office. I call it my studio, which just sounds really pretentious now that I've said that out loud. But anyway, JJ is amazing and awesome and wonderful and did some incredible prints for Star Trek Strange New World. And I have a number of those that I do want to hang up. They will probably be somewhere over there as well. And yes, I am going to get the You Are Magic actually hanging on the wall very soon. But it's a slow process here. See if I have anything nearby that we can kind of just talk about real quick, do some quick shots. Yeah, I do actually. I got 2 things sitting here next to me. Everyone knows, as well as this is a perfect segue from JJ Lindell, because it's something that we talked a lot about on the last episode that he was on, is physical media. I love physical media. I recently upgraded to a dedicated 4K Blu-ray player. Before that, I was running everything on PlayStation 5, which is great. I mean, if that's the way that you're watching 4K stuff, awesome, great. I'm just glad that people are doing it. And I've got an OLED Ultra HD television in here as well, that I get to view all of my physical media on. And 2 things that I'm very excited about watching that I've not even cracked open yet are the anniversary edition of Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which, for those that aren't aware, this was the animated film that was made back in the early 90s, sort of spun out from the Batman the Animated Series, which is classic, amazing, wonderful. Kevin Conroy and Eileen Sorkin, unfortunately, both recently had passed away as Batman and Harley Quinn, respectively. But this spin-off film was, critically praised at the time that it was released. It really has only grown in esteem since then. It's a fantastic film. Wonderful animation. The big budget really pays off. Of course, even on the small screen, Batman had some great animation. There were some hiccups here and there as well, because it's a rush schedule and it's for TV and it's 25 minutes or whatever. But that said, this is great. It's also, oddly enough, I did not know this off the top of my head, but it mentions it on the back of the package. The first Warner Brothers animated film to use computer generated first ever use of computer generated animation, which I thought was really cool. I did not know that. So looking forward to cracking this open. It also includes a special feature on Kevin Conroy called I Am the Night, which I'm really looking forward to watching that as well. He was a spectacular fellow, and left us all too soon. I think had more to give, quite frankly, even though he had already certainly made his mark as Batman, and through a lot of the work that he did post Batman, a lot of charity work and advocacy as well. So really looking forward to seeing both of those pieces. The other thing that I have, which I kind of almost didn't order, and even after I'd ordered it, I almost canceled my pre-order, just because I don't want to buy everything in spite of what my spouse might think. And this is a film that I saw in theaters, and the minute I saw it in theaters, I loved it dearly. When I saw it in theaters, the first thing that I thought of, oddly enough, was Doctor Who. And I got home, and I can remember going on to like whatever internet forum it was back in the day, and somebody had, I think it might have been Outpost Gallifrey, actually. Somebody had already posted a thread saying exactly what I was thinking about how they felt like this was almost like this sort of weird American proto pilot for some sort of Doctor Who, film or something. It wasn't, obviously, but it certainly had that feeling. So I loved the movie, and I owned it on DVD. I never upgraded it to Blu-ray or anything. I hadn't seen it in a long time, but one thing that I'd recently gotten into with physical media is not all of them, but for some films, I'm really enjoying getting the steelbook version of. And when I saw the beautiful design work on this, I just had to pick it up. And that is Sleepy Hollow. I just think that the steelbook looks beautiful. You can't really see it, I think, unfortunately, over the camera, but just the way that this is printed on the steel and the way that it's designed, it really gives it this 3D look almost. There's an incredible amount of depth to it. And I just love the way that it looks. And it's, it's fairly simple, but it works. It's great. I know there's some people that don't like it, but teach their own. And comes with a booklet, lots of special features as well. Well, maybe not lots of special features, but a couple documentaries, audio commentary. Tim Burton is, I love a lot of what Tim Burton does. I think he does some incredible work. Certainly Johnny Depp at the time that this was made was not quite the controversial fellow that he has become. But that said, I think that he does some wonderful work in this, in particular, kind of straddling that line between, the serious and the comic. But there's also just a great cast in this, a pretty deep cast in general. Christina Ricci, Miranda Richardson, Michael Gambon, some great stuff. And of course, Danny Elfman's score. So I'm really looking forward to revisiting this film because it's been a long time since I saw it. Also of note that one of the reasons why I'm happy I did not cancel my pre-order is that it is sold out. They did not make very many of the steelbooks apparently, and it's fetching a premium price already, which on one hand is unfortunate because I would love to be able to tell everybody, go grab this, it's awesome, it's amazing. Unfortunately, you can't unless you want to pay like 2 or 3 times what it initially cost, which don't do that. So that's going to about do it, I think. I don't really have anything else to talk about. I didn't really have a lot to talk about this time. I just was able to stretch it out into a full episode. I'm really looking forward to the premiere of season 2 of Quantum Leap on Wednesday, October the 4th, 8 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. It's really, I think it's going to be really good. And I'm talking about the response. I know the episode is good, but I think the response is going to be really good, very positive. And I can't wait to see what other reviewers and other podcasters think about the episodes. I know that others have seen it obviously already, but contrary to what people might think, there's no like long text chain where we're just all sitting there like getting our thoughts back and forth. I may have exchanged some comments with one person in particular. It probably wouldn't take, a huge amount of work to figure out who that might be. But I think that we were on the same page, which is exciting because, anytime you kind of have opinions or thoughts or feelings about something, you're always sort of like waiting to see if anybody else agrees with you or if everybody thinks that you're just, out of your mind. So I'm glad that I'm not. And I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions on it as well, because I want people to be happy about this and thrilled about this. And I really think people are. I think that this is going to appeal to an even wider audience than the first season did, quite frankly. And episode 1, 2, and 3 of season 2, I think will accomplish that a great deal. Again, episode 1 in particular is a perfect way to bring some new viewers in. I really think so. And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about the collaborative process of episode 1, because there's some unique collaboration I think that happened on this episode for the better, and certainly we'll be addressing that once we get to cover episode 1 in detail, which of course will drop immediately after the premiere of season 2 on October the 4th at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Did that backwards, but immediately following the episode, you'll be able to find Fate's Wide Wheel covering the episode on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. There have been elements of this episode and many episodes that, we've done over the past year or so that have been confessional in nature at times, some more so than others. And I really appreciate your support. I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your friendship, because that's genuinely, what it feels like, when people reach out and people send messages. And so I'm really grateful for that. And there are a couple of you in particular that I didn't ask for permission to name you ahead of time, so I'm not going to, but you know who you are. And I really, really thank you for the messages you've sent, whether it's, Facebook Messenger or in the Twitter DMs and whatnot. I really appreciate it. And you've been very kind. And I'm looking forward to following up on some of the things that we discussed or in my poor manners might not have addressed fully and completely, but will do so. So thank you all so very much. I really appreciate it. Of course, if you want to support the show, there is a Patreon. Obviously, at this particular point in time, with the lack of consistency, I understand not wanting to necessarily jump on completely get that. Once the season starts, there's going to be a lot of content coming your way. There'll even be some exclusive content for Patreon subscribers. I'm going to be able to detail a little bit more of what that is as we draw closer to the premiere date, which you're probably thinking 2 weeks out. You don't have it yet. And the short answer is no, I don't, because part of that really kind of hinges on some of the things that I can or cannot talk about and how I can talk about them. But certainly want to offer something to Patreon subscribers. So you can head over to Patreon, of course, Fates Wide Wheel. But before you do that, just make sure that you are trying to right some wrongs out there in the world. Certainly look around your community, see if there's anything you can do, any local charities that you can support. If you want to help the world at large, of course, I will always shout out the Trevor Project and Doctors Without Borders, two of my favorite charities that I personally have donated to for a number of years now, actually. Doctors Without Borders is one that I've been supporting pretty much as soon as I made the decision. I was like, I'm going to do this. That's one that consistently I've supported. And the Trevor Project as well, just not quite as long, actually. So I will always, of course, recommend both of those. But if after all of that, you still have some change jingling around in your pocket and you would like to throw it Fates Wide Wheels way, I will certainly not say no. It will help keep the lights on, help me to afford the servers and et cetera, for keeping the podcast going and the subscription fees and all of that jazz. So I really do appreciate it. It means a lot for all of you that have stuck around in spite of the fact that there has not been as much content generated over the past few months as there had been in the year and a half or so prior to that. So I thank you very, 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 very much for that. It does mean a lot. And again, it goes a long way. So thank you all so much for sticking with the show, sticking by. And I cannot wait for what's next, because there's some exciting stuff coming with the show, and hopefully again we get some resolutions to these strikes and we can start talking to the people that make the show, which will be a lot of fun. Certainly have some ideas for episodes in the future as well if that doesn't happen, obviously, so we'll certainly get on that. And I hope to be back next week with another brand new episode. I'm not 100% sure what that topic's going to be, because some of that will depend on the guest host that I can convince to come and ride along with me. In the meantime, it's definitely time to leap out of here. So take care of yourselves, take care of one another, stay safe out there, and remember, always leap responsibly.